Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're getting right into it, looking closely at how brain habits form daily. We're going to completely unpack the psychology of discipline. But listen, this is definitely not the usual advice you've probably heard a million times before. Let's just dive right in.
Think about your typical morning. There are about 40 seconds every single morning that quite literally decide your entire day. The alarm goes off, your eyes flutter open in the dark, and before you can even form a single conscious thought, some ancient part of your brain has already crunched the numbers. It feels that cold floor. It anticipates the massive, long day ahead. It remembers that huge project you swore you'd finally start today, and it makes the decision for you. Your hand reaches out, hits snooze, and you tell yourself, you know what, I'll make up for it later. And just like that, 40 seconds later, you're fast asleep again. You literally lost a fight you were never even truly awake for.
And then, right around noon, the guilt hits. We've all been there, right? You look at your completely derailed plans for the day, maybe you open a new tab to watch some quick motivational clip, and you write out a brand new plan with even cleaner handwriting than yesterday. And hey, it might actually work for a few days, but then it doesn't. You end up in the exact same place, quietly asking yourself that ultimate, deeply relatable question. What is actually wrong with me?
Section 1. The willpower myth. It's not about force. To answer that question, we need a major paradigm shift. Look, most people will tell you the answer is just willpower, right? Just stop making excuses, grit your teeth, and push through. But I'm here to tell you, you are not broken, and the problem is absolutely not your willpower. Just look at how wildly society's belief contrasts with what science actually proves. Back in 2012, a team of psychologists led by Wilhelm Hoffman and Roy Baumeister ran this fascinating study. They basically interrupted people randomly throughout their day to ask them, hey, what are you craving right now? And how hard are you resisting it? Now, if society were right, the most disciplined people should be the ones resisting the hardest, right? Sweating it out. But they found the exact opposite. Highly disciplined people barely forced themselves to do anything. They actually reported weaker desires, way less inner conflict, and less overall resistance. They weren't gritting their teeth and winning some epic mental battle. They were somehow never even in the fight to begin with.
Section 2. The effort paradox. Craving the hard things.
So the real takeaway here is that white-knuckling your way through life is not the actual skill. So how do we shift our understanding of effort? How can our brains literally learn to crave the hard things? To get this, we have to look at this brilliant concept from a 1992 paper by researcher Robert Eisenberger. He called it Learned Industriousness. Now, effort isn't just some abstract choice you make in your head. Effort is a very real physical sensation in your body. It's that heaviness in your chest, the tightness behind your eyes when you're concentrating. And here's the kicker. Because it's a physical sensation, it can be conditioned. It can be trained, exactly like a taste for black coffee or a certain smell. When effort is repeatedly followed by a reward, the actual sensation of effort itself starts to take on a reward value. The heaviness literally stops registering as pain and starts registering as a signal that something really good is about to happen.
And this analogy just perfectly illustrates the point. In 2018, researchers published a paper called The Effort Paradox. Think about it. If animals strictly avoid effort, why do humans routinely choose things precisely because they're hard? Like, nobody climbs a massive mountain just for the view at the top. I mean, we have helicopters for that. We climb the mountain for the challenge. Effort doesn't just cost value, it actually adds value. You literally have a documented, hardwired human capacity to value effort. Yours just hasn't been switched on yet.
Section 3. Prediction machine. Anticipating the future.
Okay, so how do we flip that switch? Well, we have to look at how your brain is basically a full-time prediction machine, constantly anticipating the future. And to do that, we need to correct a pretty common misunderstanding about dopamine. You've probably heard it called the reward chemical, right? But it's actually a bit more complex than that. Back in the 1990s, neuroscientist Wolfer Schultz was recording dopamine neurons in animals that were learning to expect a reward. At first, it played out exactly like you'd think. The dopamine spike happened the exact moment the reward actually arrived. Makes sense, right?
But wow, here is the mind-blowing shift that happens as learning actually takes place. As the animal figured out that a light always flashed right before the reward, the dopamine burst actually moved. It stopped firing at the reward entirely and started firing at the light. The dopamine signal literally walks backwards in time. It leaves the actual prize and attaches itself completely to whatever reliably predicts the prize.
Now let's bring this right back to your daily habits. Your brain isn't producing a huge dopamine spike when you finish a grueling task. It's producing it the exact moment you reach into your pocket for your phone. Why? Because your phone reliably predicts immediate relief, distraction, and entertainment. Now let's ask the tough question.
What does sitting down at your desk or opening up a blank notebook reliably predict? For most of us, honestly, it predicts strain, self-criticism, and the sudden, crushing realization of just how far behind we are. So your brain does exactly what millions of years of evolution built it to do. It flinches. It pulls away. You see, you don't actually have a discipline problem. You have a prediction problem. So where did this terrible prediction program even get written? Well, think back to your childhood. You were always rewarded for outcomes, weren't you? The A on the report card, the shiny trophy, the totally finished science project. Nobody threw a pizza party for the 3 weeks of boring, unglamorous effort it took to get there. Effort was just treated like this completely unpleasant tax you had to pay at the gate. And honestly, it gets worse. As an adult, every single time you white-knuckle your way through a forced, joyless work session and you slam your laptop shut thinking, that was awful, I barely got anything done, you are accidentally conditioning your brain. You are actively teaching your nervous system that effort reliably predicts feeling terrible about yourself.
Section 4. 5 steps to rewire. Building an association.
But hey, because this is all learned conditioning, the truly fantastic news here is that these predictions can absolutely be rewritten. We aren't going to try and artificially inflate our willpower. No, we are going to build a brand new association. So here is your explicit 5-step playbook for rewiring your brain's conditioning so you actually crave discipline instead of running from it.
Step 1. Pay the effort, not the outcome. Look, results are incredibly slow, and honestly, mostly out of your control, which makes them terrible teachers for your brain. You absolutely must reward the act unconditionally and immediately. Literally the second you finish a work session, tick a box, mark a chart, or even just say out loud to yourself, I showed up. It has to fire within seconds of the effort. Now, your ego might absolutely hate this because it kind of feels like you're rewarding mediocrity, but you have to remember, you aren't grading your output. You are just pairing a physical sensation with a quick, reliable reward.
Step 2. Move the reward to the doorway. Because dopamine naturally migrates backward to the cue, you need to put something genuinely good at the entrance of the hard thing, not the exit. There was this brilliant 2014 Wharton study by Catherine Milkman where she gave people these incredibly gripping audiobooks. But the catch was, they were only allowed to listen to them while at the gym. And guess what? Gym attendance jumped by about half. So find your exclusive reward. Maybe it's a specific fancy coffee you only drink at the desk, or an amazing playlist you only fire up while training, and pair it strictly with the very start of the task.
Step 3. Shrink the entry until refusing is just absurd. Your brain doesn't actually dread the work itself, it dreads the anticipated massive size of the work. So shrink the task down to one single sentence, or maybe just 2 minutes. A 2010 University College London study tracked people building new habits and found that automaticity really comes from just sheer repetition. And the most comforting finding from that whole study? Missing a single day did not break the curve. The people who completely failed were the ones who formally quit, not the ones who just slipped up once or twice. Make the entry point so insultingly small that your brain literally has nothing to dread.
Step 4. Design the room, not your resolve. Remember those highly disciplined people from the Hoffman study earlier? The ones who had virtually no inner conflict? Well, they purposefully encountered way fewer temptations. They chose to go to the quiet room way before studying actually began. You need to make these decisions while you are calm and rational, so your exhausted 11 p.m. self doesn't have to fight an uphill battle against temptation. Leave the phone in another room entirely. Delete the app. You aren't being weak by removing a temptation. You're just doing exactly what top self-regulators already do by default.
And finally, step 5, never end on failure. Listen, the final 30 seconds of any session are exactly what your brain files away as its primary prediction for tomorrow. So you have to stop ending in the wreckage. Don't slam the laptop shut mid-paragraph while spiraling into a panic about how little you accomplished. Deliberately end on a tiny win. One easy set at the gym, one clean sentence on the page, one finished small task. Stop right there on purpose while it still feels relatively good, so your brain consults a positive winning record tomorrow morning.
Section 5. Effort is the reward. The daily reality.
So, what does daily life actually look like once these 5 steps have successfully rewired all those dusty old habits? Well, over a century ago, way before we could even measure a dopamine neuron, the pioneering psychologist William James wrote that the entire point of education is to make our nervous system our ally instead of our enemy. And he hit the nail on the head. Discipline isn't some grueling war you declare on yourself every single morning. It is simply getting the automatic part of you, that ancient part that decides your morning in 40 seconds, working on the exact same side as your conscious waking goals.
Now, I want to deliver the totally honest truth here. The work won't magically become effortless. Hard things, they stay hard. Heavy things are going to stay heavy. But what completely disappears is that draining daily referendum on whether or not you have enough willpower today. That grueling 40-second internal courtroom negotiation at the alarm clock, it just goes quiet. Effort starts to feel way less like a punishment and more like a familiar, rewarding texture that you actually genuinely value.
Look, you were never broken, and you were never just lazy. You simply had a nervous system that was trained by a deeply flawed system, and that training can absolutely be redone starting right now. So I'm going to leave you with this question to reflect on today. Between paying the effort, moving the reward, shrinking the entry, designing the room, or never ending on failure, which of the 5 steps is the crucial missing piece in your daily habits?